we are interviewing Amanda Bova, who is a candidate for Orange County Judge Group 9. The other candidate in this race has chosen not to appear at our interview. And we do what we do in those circumstances. We go ahead and speak with the candidate who has agreed to talk to us. And I would like to start out by asking you about the role of county courts. They're often referred to as the people's court. And you are far more likely as a judge to see people who are appearing without representation. What should a county judge do when they have somebody before them to ensure that the law is followed, but that you don't give any unfair advantage?
Sure, of course. Thank you so much for having me today. You know, the Orlando Sentinel is my hometown newspaper. I'm born and raised in Central Florida, so I'm really thrilled to be here. Yeah, like you said, county court is the people's court. And so what that means is small claims court, traffic court, landlord-tenant, sometimes misdemeanors, domestic violence, and things of that nature. So yeah, a lot of people will come before judges without attorneys. And for several different reasons. They might not be able to afford an attorney, or they might be able to afford an attorney, but it just doesn't make sense financially to hire an attorney when the claim is for something that's for a lower dollar amount. So I think what's really important is that judges have a lot of patience with those people. Like you said, it's the people's court. So we being the judiciary, are the face of the judicial system. So, you know, I think there's a way to move cases along. And make sure that people are treated fairly and that they have their day in court.
Do you think that there are resources? I mean, there are resources in Orange County that are available for pro se or self-represented litigants and defendants as well. Is that something that you think the court should be interacting with, or is it that you can just let them know that those resources are available and then hope they take advantage of them?
I think it depends on the situation. I mean, I think in a lot of cases, like landlord-tenant, the law is pretty clear. So if somebody, you know, comes before the court and they've done just a little bit of research and they know what they're talking about, you know, I don't think they necessarily have to have an attorney. Of course, it's their prerogative whether they want to have an attorney or not. And like you said, Orange County has a lot of resources for pro se people. You know, at the clerk's office, there's a program where I think you can pay per minute, like $1 per minute. And there's a lot of attorneys that volunteer their time to help out people like that. You know, and I'm a member of the Orange County Bar Association. I volunteered for a lot of things such as legal aid. I've done pro bono walk-in clinics for people trying to do sealing and expungements. So you're right, there are a lot of resources out. And I would try to treat people the same. I think it just, pro se, it's going to require a little bit more patience. And I think, you know, my background as a public defender and, you know, being a small business owner myself, you know, I think that lends itself to being able to, you know, understand what people are going through when they have to come to court.
Obviously, your opponent's not here, but if you can outline for voters, if you can outline maybe one or two ways that you feel that you differ from your opponent, just to draw sort of a dividing line between you.
Sure. There's so many things, you know, like you said, my opponent's not here today, but I have been working really hard for over a year, campaigning, going to community events and trying to get the word out about my qualifications. You know, like I said earlier, I'm born and raised in this community. I live here now and I practice here now in Orange County. My opponent, from what I have learned about him, doesn't even practice in Orange County. He's a prosecutor in Lake County but he has no information out there other that he's made available to the public. I'm board certified. Like I said, I've been practicing for 15 years. He's not board certified, and he's been practicing several years less than I have, I believe. I believe he's been practicing for approximately 9 years. You know, I have both public service and private practice. I started out as a public defender. And then I went and started my own firm. And my own firm, I did criminal defense and family law. So I've handled criminal and civil cases. So I believe I'm the far more qualified candidate. But in addition to that, what I think is really important is service to the community. My opponent has publicly stated that he does not do any community service and doesn't believe in it. I think as a judge, especially in county court, community service is essential. The role of judge is a service to the community. And so I think that's very important.
One of the things that is thrown around frequently in a judicial race is this quality of judicial temperament. And I would like for you to address or describe what you feel the ideal judicial temperament to strive for is, and how that would inform the way you would do this job if you were elected.
Sure. I think it starts with, being fair and impartial and following the law. It's a judge's role is to call balls and strikes, essentially. So we're not supposed to impose our personal opinions or our personal views on the case where the law is clear. There are certain circumstances where judges have discretion. And I think that's where, your temperament and your experience come into play, your life experience, and in addition to your career experience. One of the reasons why I'm running for county court is I believe my personality, I'm a people person. I enjoy meeting people. I've been going door to door, and funny enough, other than the 90 and 100-degree weather out there, I kind of like going door to door and meeting people and seeing their houses and what gardens they have, and how much care they've taken into making their home unique and welcoming. But yeah, I think especially in county court, temperament is so important. And like going back to what I said earlier, patience, because you're going to have so many pro se litigants coming before you, patience and treating people with respect. Oftentimes you can't make everybody happy. One party is going to walk away not getting what they wanted, right, when they come to court. But I think there's a lot to be said about if they feel that they were treated fairly, that they were treated like a person, like with respect, and that the law was followed. I mean, you can't really argue too much with that, in my opinion. And I think people will walk away with a sense of, confidence in our judicial system. And I think that's better for our society.
One of the ongoing tussles between the legislative and the judicial branch is the question of resources, and how much funding the courts should keep from the money that they generate. Do you believe that courts in Orange County have adequate resources to ensure the fair administration of justice at the county level?
I'm not a judge right now, so I don't know the intricacies of their budget, but I am very active in our local bar associations, and I know that there has been a push for people to contact the legislature to make sure the courts are appropriately funded. For what I can say is that I know no matter how much funding, comes our way or how many cases we have, I will work tirelessly to make sure that people have their day in court and have it in a timely manner. And that might mean working beyond 5 o'clock, working and staying till 7 o'clock or however long it takes sometimes, having my own private practice, there were times where I worked without an assistant. I answered my own phones, I did my own paperwork. I handled a lot of the admin stuff myself. So I'm very resourceful. So I think I can be an asset to our courts. And I hope that budget won't be an issue, but any way that I can help out is what I will strive to do.
One of the big challenges, I think, is when people want to follow what's going on in a court. Keeping courts open and accessible to everyone, including non-litigants, can be a challenge. What do you think judges should be doing to ensure that courts are accessible and transparent to the Floridians who fund them?
Sure. Yeah, I think transparency and openness is very important. Like you said, it is a public forum, so it should be open to the public. There are some rare instances when there's victims or child victims where their privacy is paramount. So we definitely want to protect those people. But in all other cases, I will do whatever I can to make the courts open and accessible to the people, because in my opinion, the courts belong to the people. It's not my personal courtroom. If that answers your question.
Yeah. Yes, it does.
Just to build on that a little bit more, I think with Zoom and everything, it is a little bit harder to access because we do want to protect, because there are a lot of cyber risks out there. There have been instances where people will put inappropriate things on a Zoom. So I think there are steps that can be taken, and as long as we do it in an organized and careful manner, we can accomplish that and still give people the access. I think Zoom and, Microsoft Teams and Google Meet is very efficient in certain circumstances, but not always. Sometimes people want to come in person, and I'm totally fine with that. I want to do what's most efficient, and try to do what works.
So it sounds as though you would be open to potentially scheduling, should the rules allow this, because I know that there's some shifting there, that you would be open to allowing litigants and witnesses to appear electronically if that's something that is allowable under the rules.
Yes, definitely. I think a jury trial, like in a criminal case, would be difficult and challenging to do via Zoom, because you just the nature of it. I did many different criminal trials, so I know what it's like. But for a status hearing or something like that, or something where, most of the evidence is documents in nature instead of like a physical piece of evidence that has to be admitted, I don't see why we can't use Zoom. Like I said, I was a private practitioner, and I remember having to drive from county to county, and that's time and that's money, especially being a parent. Every time that I'm sitting in court waiting for a hearing, or driving to another county, that's time away from my family, time away from my practice.
We are getting close to the end of our time. I did want to sneak one more question in there, and apologize to my colleagues.
Could I say something real quick about that, about him not showing up? I just think it's really dangerous. Like the thing I hear on the street most often when I'm canvassing and talking to people is they don't know who to vote for when it comes to judges. I think it's really important that we have things like what you're doing now, the interviews here, and just getting the word out, because judicial races are important. They impact our community directly. And I think people have the right to be informed. And for someone to not show up, it's sad and it's scary that someone is just relying on simply their name, that maybe they have a nice sounding name or a name that's relatable. And I think that's very dangerous to our judiciary and to the democratic process as a whole.
Well, I don't want to, make assumptions about why he is or isn't here, but I am very glad that you are, very much so. But the last question that I had for you before we ask for kind of a wrap up is that Orange County and other counties have had a great deal of experience at this point with what are called specialty courts, drug court, teen court, veterans court, mental health court, and different kinds of courts in different counties, obviously. What, if any, specialty courts would you be interested in serving in as a county court judge? And what other possibilities do you see for specialty courts in Orange County?
Sure. Yeah, I would definitely be open to participate in specialty courts. I've directly participated in specialty courts such as drug court, and I've seen the success rates and how they can really help people. I mean, drug court is not messing around. It's a very strict program. It does allow for some setbacks, but when I've gone to personally watch some of the graduations, and once people put in the hard work, they can really turn their life around. And that's one of the reasons that I'm running for judge. I really think that there's differences that can be made in people's lives. And when you structure sentences to include specialty programs like drug court or mental health court and veterans court, I'm all about that, especially at mental health court. Being a public defender, I've seen how mental health lands people in jail. And it's heartbreaking because, they shouldn't be in jail unless they're a threat to the community. But because our system just doesn't have any place to put them, they end up in jail sometimes. And I've fought tirelessly to get them the help that they needed. So definitely, I think mental health court, I can't really think of anything additional right at the moment, but I have an open mind. So if someone has an idea, I'd be happy to explore it and research and get it set up.
If you could just take just a few minutes, maybe like 1 or 2 minutes, and just kind of wrap up, give us an idea of why you think you're the the smarter choice in this race?
Sure. Again, like I said, I'm born and raised in this area. I'm the daughter of entrepreneurs who moved here in the 70s and started their own small business. My husband's an entrepreneur. And I'm a mom, I'm a board certified attorney. And I've been endorsed by several members of the community, as well as, attorneys, the FOP, the West Orange Chamber of Commerce, and some other labor unions. So I definitely think I'm the right choice. I've been supported by, my colleagues as well as opposing counsel. This is not something I just did on a whim. I've been planning and researching to make sure this was a good fit for me. So I reached out to other judges and mentors to make sure, I would be a good fit for the position and that I would like it. I think when you really enjoy something and you're passionate about it, you really put more effort into it. So this is something that I really want to do to give back to the community. And I'm really excited about this opportunity. Again, want to thank you all for taking the time out. Like I said, the Orlando Sentinel is my hometown newspaper. So I'm honored to be here, and I'm happy to answer any other questions. My website does have some helpful information. It's www.amanda4judge.com.